Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Gunman Tales, some Western arcade action. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer FobT Interactive, Gunman Tales originally released for PC in August of 2018. Now in March of 2023, it's available for the PlayStation 4, the Xbox, and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. This title is basically a cute Western-themed shooting gallery type shoot 'em up, but it does have a unique adventure mode where you run around as a bounty hunter on this map trying to find a legendary treasure. Unfortunately, it does fall short of its potential in that mode, but it's still interesting, especially from kind of the humor standpoint that the game has, to check out. With that said, diving into the game itself, we find ourselves at the main menu. There are a couple options under settings. You can change the difficulty. There's a retro mode, so you can set scan lines or not. As is usually the case, I prefer to go without. The how to play just kind of explains what's going on in the adventure mode in a big wall of text, so you're probably just better to dive into the game itself. Selecting new game, you can select adventure, arcade, and duel. So initially I'll show you a little bit of what adventure is, and then we'll just play through the game in arcade so we can kind of just get a feel for the overall flow. So when you're playing adventure, you can play with 1, 2, 3, 4 players, and if you wanted to, you could potentially play with all players using the same controller. For the purposes of just showing it off, we'll start with 1, but of course you can go through, if you were to play for 4, it would kind of make it easy in a way. Once you've selected your number of players, you can select which of the gunmen you want to be. So for our purposes, for this mode, we'll take Billy, and then we'll go and see Ray and Billy again in the arcade mode. So we start off as this hat that's moving around the map. We're in the bottom left, and after our turn, we have a set amount of movement that we can use. Then if you're playing with other players, they will get to move, or if you're playing with CPUs, they'll move around. There are certain spots on the map, like these various red nodes, we can stop at, and stopping at these stages will get the shooting gallery mode that the game has. So this is basically the bread and butter of the game itself. We have enemies coming in from the left and right, firing like their guns at us, throwing dynamite, and we'll be firing back. So you move left and right at the bottom of the screen, and there's also a cursor that you can move around. So in a way, this is kind of a twin stick. You move with the left stick, you move your cursor around with the right stick, and then you use your triggers to fire, or you can basically dodge roll. The dodge roll is definitely overpowered, as you can dodge through enemy bullets without taking damage. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind and use to the fullest extent that it'll allow you to. In this mode, there is like an experience system though, so you will be gaining experience, leveling up, getting more HP throughout the course of your gameplay. It's a pretty neat system overall. Once all the enemies are defeated, you'll bring up this reward screen here. You'll get money as well as rewards, and then the turn will pass to the next players. So basically, we're trying to get rewards and items to ultimately find 4 pieces of a treasure map to get a legendary treasure. So in addition to playing stages like that, there's various parts of the map you can stop at, like the town here, Sundance. So you can go to the gun shop, buy some additional guns. We can gamble money to try and make more money. Go to the doctor to heal up or make some donations. Or we can go to the sheriff to take some jobs. And this is pretty neat, as it does change up the gameplay when you do take one of these jobs. So in this case, we're going after Dirty Willie, and here we're riding a horse and we still have our usual life, so you do have to be careful, as if you're taken out, then it'll be mission failed. But that's a great way to make money if you don't fail the mission. One thing to keep in mind, you do have 3 lives. Once you've lost all your lives, it's game over. It's also possible for the CPU players to lose their lives as well, in which at that point you can stop by their gravesite and basically rob their grave. So let's go and jump to the arcade mode to go and show you more of just the basic gameplay the game has. So diving into the arcade mode, we start by playing stage 1, the graveyard. And it is also possible to play this one 2-player simultaneous, which is a rather fun, if somewhat overpowered way to play it. So in this mode, same as the normal stages, you want to take out all the enemies and the chickens as well, as the chickens do give you some really nice power-ups. So there's basically a heart potion, which will increase your life, stopwatch, which slows down time. You can also get power-up for bullets, additional dynamite, or a mode that gives you coins, so you can get additional points throughout the course of your gameplay. So there was one other ability, or actually a couple abilities that I didn't talk about when I was showing off adventure mode. So each character has a unique ability. So in the case of our 2 arcade players here, Ray and Willie, Ray has the ability to throw bombs. Willie has this 5-way shot that he fires straight forward. So in the case of Ray here, once we have the charge rushed up, I'll show you the bomb. Oh, some of the background items, like these trees, we can shoot, and they'll ultimately give us points. So, as I was mentioning, Ray's ability is to throw these bombs forward. And Billy can fire a really powerful 5-way shot that will take out any of the enemies that it hits. So if we destroy some of the background items, like that tree, we can get these like bonus points. And once all the enemies are defeated, we move on to the next stage. And the game basically moves like this through a total of 12 stages, where we ultimately culminate in a boss fight that, at least in the 2-player, seemed a little on the broken side. So, like, and for the most part, that's basically Gunman Tales served up for your enjoyment. So the game itself is, like, initially starts off as relatively, like, enjoyable and fun, but the overall problem I have with it is it does start to get monotonous as you move through the game itself. Especially playing 2-player, it's pretty easy to go and move through all the stages with, like, a minimal problem. And even if one character, one player, like, falls in 2-player mode, if the other character still makes it through the stage, then you start the next stage both with full life. So as far as mindless flavors are concerned, one problem the game has, as I was mentioning, is it can just kind of get like a little bit monotonous just doing the same thing, even though you do have some different enemies here, like the ones that are throwing knives out of the water. You've got the ones with the shields. But for the most part, after a few stages, we've basically seen what the game has to offer. There's also only a single music track for the arcade stages, so that does start to get a little bit old after a little bit of time. The adventure mode itself, while it has a lot of promise, it falls short of that promise, as there are some issues with sometimes the CPU not really doing much of anything, just sitting around, like taking up your time. Whenever there's like character duels, whenever I was like challenged by a CPU, I was never able to win a duel. I'll show like you kind of how those duels look here in just a moment, but it seemed a little unfair, and where you have a limited amount of lives, having what feels like a decent run and then suddenly losing a duel to several duels to CPUs, and basically that run ending is frustrating to say the least. But as far as the plus side of things are concerned, for at least a little bit, I feel like the shooting arcade action, especially playing through the arcade, is fun. So at least the first once or twice through, it'll be an enjoyable experience. And then just the cute, silly atmosphere of the game is pretty enjoyable overall. If there are a couple stages that are a little bit cringy, like this stage, for example. And although it does have some failings, like the promise that the arcade or the adventure mode offers is definitely something that I would like to go and see come to the full fruition of what they envisioned. Alright, and with that said, that's Gunman Tales served up for your enjoyment. And we'll go and end with some duels so you can just see what that's like. You can set rounds 1, 3, or 5, and if you're playing with 2 controllers, it'll be 1v1. So it's basically ready, steady, bang! And that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.